tongue is numb, the current's clean. Your dog is dead, it's a Ponzi Scream. Ponzi Scream, Ponzi Scream, because it's just something to do.
Let's kiss some babies.
You know, David, I was in Antigua and Jamaica the other day, and I thought to myself,
one whole day in both.
Yeah, dude, I spent a day. I jetted down there for a hot second,
and you were like, I got to get back to New York where it's 30 degrees.
Yeah,
just
I was
for the
like,
pod.
I went down there to take care of some quick business, came back, but before I left, I did have an unfortunate thing happen to me where I did accidentally murder a hotel concierge.
Oh,
I know.
Oh, slip of the tongue. Slip of the finger.
I did it.
These things happen, man.
I know. I try not to lose my temper, but then I realize I'm in those Caribbean islands, and I'm just like, the laws. They're so slippery down here.
This is Danny Phelps' Chappaquiddick moment.
Yeah. What is that, Chappaquiddick?
That was Ted Kennedy.
Did he?
He'd had a little bit too much to drink.
That's right.
My fellow citizens, I have requested this opportunity to talk to the people of Massachusetts about the tragedy which happened last Friday evening. This morning I entered a plea of guilty to the charge of leaving the scene of an accident. Prior to my appearance in court, it would have been proper for me to comment on these matters. But tonight I am free to tell you what happened and to say what it means to me.
He ran his car into a river, creek, brook, body of water.
Yeah.
He was in the car with him was a woman who was not his wife.
Yeah.
And
woman, not my wife.
He got out of the car. And she didn't. She drowned.
She did not get out of the damn car.
And before he went to the authorities, I think he went home sopping wet to talk to maybe his dad and a fixer, kind of like in that. It's very much that scene from Godfather 2 where there's the senator and he is sobbing uncontrollably in his boxer shorts on a hotel bed. Mm-hmm. And the Corleone fixer, Tom Hagen, walks in.
Yeah.
And then you see... Hagen. Then you pan out at the end of the scene and you see the part of a corpse of a prostitute.
Oh yeah.
And then he's like, "Don't worry, we'll cover this up." And it'll, So
this is triggering for Danny when Danny murdered somebody.
Yeah. I have to say.
So you had a fixer, a Kennedy-like fixer.
Yeah, and I mean, Lord knows the United States. We as unit residents of the United States, we have a long, rich history of men driving cars irresponsibly and then killing somebody in the process. I can't think of the only one else that I can think of at the moment is Caitlyn Jenner killing somebody with her car in like 1980. Remember that? Caitlyn Jenner ran over somebody?
I don't.
And it was like loose manslaughter. Like
Sure. Matthew Broderick also killed... veered into oncoming traffic in, I believe, Ireland when he was in the car with Jennifer Grey after they'd finished filming his big film that everyone loves him for.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was a secret that he had been dating Jennifer Grey.
Oh, he was dating Jennifer Grey?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
See, exactly.
weird.
Window.
Exactly.
Oh.
And then What Was Dirty Dancing came out right after that. And Jennifer Grey was catapulted to stardom in that film. And she couldn't really enjoy... in interviews, she says she didn't really enjoy that moment of shine because she was preoccupied with the injuries she sustained to her back in that car accident.
Oh no!
And also the murders.
Yeah, and also the murders. Oh yeah, and then there was also that like
Kevin Spacey. That's what I was going to say.
Well, I will put a little bookmark in that, and then come back to that. That dignitary, that U.S. dignitary's wife, ran over that British boy, that teenager, that 19-year-old.
Harry's family have spent weeks wondering how the wife of a US diplomat could claim diplomatic immunity.
We can reveal that the driver who hit Harry Dunn is 42-year-old Anne Sakoulas. She's the wife of an American diplomat who was based here. Police believe she was driving on the wrong side of the road when the crash happened.
She was driving in
allegedly
driving. No, it's not even alleged at this point.
No.
She was in the wrong lane of the road and fucking absolutely creamed a fucking British national on British national territory.
So Danny, when you murdered this hotel employee, were you driving on the wrong side of the road?
This is all. You're right. You gotta. I have to say, I was charged with an alleged crime. Where I was in Antigua, and
you were in Antigua or somewhere else?
Anguilla, excuse me, Anguilla.
Okay, yeah,
the Caribbean islands. They all, Saint Pierre. They're all and my name was also Scott Hapgood, who was his name is a suspended UBS employee, but I'm he's a USB employee. You put data on him and then you take it over to your friend's house.
Yeah,
no, we're all talking. Do you know this Scott character, David? You don't know?
I think I read a little bit about him. Yeah.
He
got charged with a little bit.
He got charged with manslaughter in a hotel in Antigua. Anguilla. But then he flipped the script and he really turned lemons into lemonade, and he sued the hotel where he murdered a man. And why this pertains to us is because he was a registered broker dealer, but he was kind of disgraced, right? He's not actually a registered broker dealer anymore, right? Or he was, but he did some shit.
Suspended.
He was suspended. Yeah, he was a suspended broker dealer.
Yeah.
And those suspensions, though, they're very temporary, right? It's kind of like when you're in hockey and you fight somebody else on the ice and they put you in the penalty box for a couple minutes.
Yeah, you hang out.
I think you can be permanently suspended. I don't know, but if we look him up on Broker Check, guys.
Dude, we have to do a little segment at some point where I wish you could sort it by the number of red dots a person has.
We can do that when we'll talk about Broker Check another time.
Wow, so it's you can see a broker's rap sheet.
Yeah, broker's got a rap sheet, baby, and he's got and most of them were skimming off the top of someone's investments or stuff, but he's got manslaughter.
Yeah, he's got
a pending manslaughter charge.
I like a broker that's got a couple little dots next to their name.
Yeah.
It shows that they fly a little too close to the sun, but at least they're striving.
Yeah. So but there, I think there's a little bit of fuckery going on here, because it's a situation where the reason it's quote unquote manslaughter is because he was in this Caribbean island that I'm not going to say the name of again because I will mess it up.
Anguilla.
Anguilla.
Next time we can go on YouTube and type it in with how to pronounce.
Yeah.
Anguilla, voted best island in the Caribbean, is the epitome of pristine nature and stunning beaches.
And that's how prepared we are, the Ponzi Screamers. We didn't even do that.
No, absolutely not. But there's a little bit of there's a vagueness to it, because he was in this place, and it sounds like his story is that a hotel clerk just came in and started mugging him or something to that effect, and then he's I gotta defend myself, and that's basically his story. And it's a real Epstein situation where it's there's no tape, but it's his word against mine, and frankly, I'm the alive one here. So,
and I'm also the UBS employee here.
And I'm also this white overlord character as well.
So, how powerful was this broker? I mean, are we looking at someone who's a multimillionaire or a titan of industry who's covering this up, or is he?
Well, he has quite a few. He's got according to Broker Check, he's got quite a few licenses in, it looks like, almost every single state in the union. I'm not going to read it all off, but he's also registered in all of these different stock exchanges. He has worked for UBS since 1999. UBS is a big boy.
What is UBS?
UBS is a private asset management firm, and they have a banking wing as well. So they will do your investments and they'll do your banking at the same time, and that is allowed because we repealed Glass-Steagall in 1999.
They'll suck you. They'll fuck you. They'll do the whole 9 yards.
So we can look up. UBS has a lot of money in AUM, assets under management.
Oh, okay. Wait, let me guess. Can we?
Sure. Why don't you guess?
Do you have the number in front of you?
I have the number right here.
I'm gonna say 200 billion.
Okay. What do you think?
I'm going to say 500 billion.
According to Business Insider, as of 2018, they have. Oh, sorry. You know what? I'm gonna go with the Wikipedia one because it looks like it's more recent. The Wikipedia one says 3.2 trillion.
Whoa! I didn't know we were fucking with T's.
Yeah, we're on the T's, baby. We're on the T's.
See, that's the craziest part
More
of the financial.
dollars than there are stars in the galaxy.
Dude, actually, I not to get too in the weeds, but I did go to a website one time that was just like basically titled something to the effect of "What does $1 trillion look like?" And it's very interesting because you have to measure in $100 bills. So $1 million is like kind of the size of a laptop, like a MacBook that you could easily fit in a briefcase. $1 billion is like
1,000 briefcases.
No, not even actually. It's like 6 pallets up to like here, filled with $100 bills.
Wow.
But $1 trillion is an entire football field filled with those same pallets stacked too high. So you could like that's a football. It's essentially $3.2 trillion is if you like fill the football field like a quarter of the way full with $100 bills.
Folks, think about how many snowflakes you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah.
And put those in a little briefcase and let those melt and then let them freeze and then break them up again and then look at those snowflakes and count the number of snowflakes that you get when you shave all that ice and then let that melt again and then do that about 1,000 more times and you will not be close to 1 billion or 1 trillion snowflakes.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, it's just too big of a number for our puny minds to handle. You know?
Yeah, I mean, assets under management is how much money UBS manages for other people. So they don't own this much money. This is the amount of money that their clients have in total.
They babysit the money.
They babysit $3.2 trillion.
They take the money outside for walks every once in a while. They make sure the money's played with. The money gets treats every once in a while. Yeah.
Little salami.
Yeah. They'll give the money meat every once in a while as a nice little treat. You know.
Wait, tell me about this. Okay, so tell me more about this dude. What happened?
So you know, he had this sort of kerfuffle down in the Caribbean, and he came back for like a hearing essentially because they have a legal system in this state essentially, and he came back for that, and then he didn't come back after that. So he left that hearing, and then they're like, well, you have another thing, and then he's like. Then they declared him a fugitive, essentially.
Sick.
Yeah. So then
so cool.
Then he filed a suit, for $75,000. And it's weird because that seems I want to guess that this guy is like, I want to say he probably makes like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Is that a fair assumption?
I mean, he's at least 6 figures. I mean, if he's been a UBS broker for 20 years,
yeah,
he very easily could be making $1 million a year plus.
Yeah, so it's almost like this, and like he probably has lawyerly connections and everything like that.
Yeah,
so it's one of those things where it's almost he's just like he's suing them for like, fuck you for not letting me kill this man. Like, why can't I kill this man in peace? Allegedly.
So he skipped his trial. He skipped his preliminary hearings for this murder charge.
Yeah. And I have to say, the Caribbean is a beautiful, amazing, diverse area of the world. But I have to say, if you are one of the many sort of like island states that exist there, it's not helpful to declare somebody a fugitive of that state because they can literally just go to St. Croix or Bermuda or the Dominican Republic or Haiti or Puerto Rico.
Hey, but I hear Anguilla has the best Mai Tais.
Yeah,
all right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation.
So, are they going to extradite him? What's happening?
It seems like it. I mean, Danny, you know the facts, but it seems like it's still pending, right?
It seems very pending, but also.
So this guy's like he's in the financial district in New York. He's getting baked Alaskans at Delmonico's.
Yeah,
and
He's
there's
spitting
a
in the face of God, making this hot dessert.
an Ann Guillen, Dog the Bounty Hunter, is like hot on his trail, trying to apprehend him and bring him back.
Yeah.
hell yeah! This is like Boba Fett of Anguilla.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, I'm making a broad generalization here, but I can't imagine the extradition laws are like terribly strong between the United States and like Caribbean states. I don't think they have like a sort of like negative relationship with each other. But if, say, for example, the United States says to France, like, "Yo, France, you have a person who we do not like in there," France is like, "Ew. Oh my goodness, I will send him back post-test. Oh my goodness."
I don't think
You
they
know?
do at all, man. That's why Roman Polanski's still making movies.
No, he's in like, or maybe not France, but like Germany. Germany's a good example, you know. But the Caribbean, I mean, like they're too small to have any real sway with that. So if Anguilla is like, you need to send this person over so we can try them, the United States is like, you know, we once had conflict. What was it? The
Spanish-American War.
No. The one that happened in the 80s.
Grenada.
Yeah. Did that happen? Is Grenada a Caribbean island?
You know, it's an island.
Yeah. It's like, you know, we had a whole conflict just to prove a point. So no, we're not going to send this person back. And they're like, duly noted. I did ask. So thank you.
This hotel employee being murdered just really reminds me of the like Succession term of like not a real person. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they like constantly talk about this in the show, and I think it's so real for wealthy people of just like, oh, you didn't murder a high profile or wealthy person, so they're not real. So, you know, like, unless you get caught, of course, you know.
Yeah, it must be weird to exist in that sort of like weird serfdom situation. I mean, especially if you live in any of those islands that serves like a Royal Caribbean cruise.
Or like that's where people store their money. Like people have like, there's just like all of these islands have tax shelters, like the Cayman Islands. Like
the Cayman Islands.
Imagine like how precarious you are, like it would be to be a hotel employee in the Cayman Islands, because there are people flying there all the time for tax purposes or for business purposes, or even there are islands that just like have conferences for the financial sector, and that's like, and they have that there because it's cheap and it's like an exotic location, and people also happen to have a lot of like money floating around there. Like being an employee or just like a regular working person must be so precarious.
Very tenuous.
Yeah, there's no like the government, like the
You got to keep the high rollers happy.
Yeah.
And sometimes being a high roller, it means that one of your coworkers has to get smothered with a pillow.
Yeah. I mean,
for the sake of the whole island, for the community.
Yeah, it's one of the it's very much like, you know, when people get those all-inclusive paid like trips to Tulum, Mexico, where they're like, oh my God, we went to Tulum. It was so beautiful. It was so authentic and everything. And like everybody was so awesome, and I loved the community. But then like just outside of those like gated, you know, walls and stuff, it's just like fucking poverty. And just like everybody, it's like, all the employees are walking around in like bright white, you know, shorts and a shirt. But then they have to walk out into just like utter terror and like no potable water.
Oh, totally. I mean, and like I always say to people, I've never been to Mexico, even though I've been to like one of these, like when I was in high school, I went to like a resort with my family. Yeah. But like that's not that is like America. That's like colonial America in another country. Like this is a like curated space that is not actually that country. Yeah. It is owned and operated by American interests. And so I'm not like I feel like everyone last year went to Mexico City and just like, oh, Mexico City is so cool. Like I had so many good, nice.
The one thing they say about Mexico City that's really unfortunate is in Mexico City is it's very much a cultural heart of like a big part of Mexico, obviously. With maybe one of the most noticeable things about it is it's horrible weather situation. Like the pollution and the smog can be real. It's like worse than LA. It's really bad.
It's also next to a volcano and on a giant fault line.
And it's like sinking, isn't it? Also, like,
It's also sinking.
Yeah.
It's awesome. You gotta go.
Yeah,
you really do.
You really do.
You literally have to go before, like, it's not like you have to go before, like, it sells out or becomes too corporate. It's like, no, you have to go before it gets, like, obliterated.
Yeah.
But I think it will change your mind to going there after, because everybody here is like, New York, it's the best. New York is the best. And it's like, nah, man. Like, New York is a young city. Mexico City's been around for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And,
It's been around forever.
Yeah, and you've got pyramids and you've got skyscrapers. It's very Blade Runner,
Yeah, it's just unfortunate.
Have you been?
Oh yeah, love it.
Yeah?
Been multiple times.
Nice.
Can't get enough.
It sounds great. It's just the funniest aspect of catastrophic climate change in the form of smog that is the most hilarious to me is not Mexico City, is not like Hong Kong. It's actually Salt Lake City, Utah.
Sure.
Salt Lake City has a terrible inversion. So it's like all these like clean cut, always wearing a white suit Mormon people. By the way, I did try to walk into the Mormon church and a 90-year-old man wearing a completely white suit stopped me and handed me a pamphlet.
Hell yeah, dude.
But they have a terrible inversion. They have like, so it's like, it's one of those things where it's like walking around here for a day is the equivalent of smoking 3 packs of cigarettes.
Oh.
Sure. Well, none of these places have like good urban planning.
No.
And when you design your landscapes around cars, it just means that you're going to be sprawling out infinitely.
And all these like places are like founded in valleys, which is like, if
You guys
especially in the mountains.
Stop founding your cities in valleys. It's bad.
It's no good. It's not good for flooding. It's not good for air.
No.
It's reasonable for weather purposes, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
I guess that like Salt Lake City being in a valley is better than being like Salt Lake City in the like in a mountain.
I mean, they were wagons.
Yeah.
They weren't worried about cars.
What are you
There was
gonna
no
do?
combustion engines yet.
Yeah.
Same thing. Mexico City was this beautiful island in the middle of a lake when the Aztecs were there.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that the conquistadors did was say, cool, kill everybody on that island and then fill it in.
Yeah. Fill it the fuck in.
Cool.
Yeah, all those. That's the weird thing about New York too. Is it's just like, New York doesn't necessarily have like the most a beautiful fauna. That's plants, right? Or is that
Yes.
flora? I can't remember.
Flora,
yeah, because
we are the fauna. The fauna is us, the pigeons,
Yeah.
the rats, and the peregrine falcons.
Yeah. But like, that's the funny thing about here. It's like, I mean, there's tons of cars. There's tons of like exhaust and stuff. But it just kind of all blows away. Yeah.
Right, we've got the luxury of the rivers and the ocean.
Yeah. So, but anyway, watch out for this dude. He might just murk you in a fucking Caribbean island hotel resort.
Sure, what's his name again so that we can all watch out for him?
His name is allegedly Scott Hapgood. And he is in Darien, Connecticut right now. And that's where his civil lawsuit against this British protectorate is going on right now.
Yeah,
That's
and the
dude.
lawsuit is you guys begged me to
the
do
hotel.
it. It's like was it entrapment somehow?
Look,
Like,
you put this
I
guy
wouldn't have
here,
murdered
and
this-
I could just stab him if I wanted. Come on.
Look, I'm gonna keep walking forward with my knife, just stabbing forward, and if you put somebody in the way, it's your fault.
It's
if
your
they
own
get
fault.
killed.
I'm gonna sit.
true.
I'm gonna. No, this is like the Simpsons thing. It's like I'm gonna be here punching the air, and if you get in the way, well, I'm gonna be here kicking the air, and if you get in the way,
I like the idea of like, okay, so he's suing the hotel, not the British protectorate. I like the idea of like the hotel like encouraging him to murder, and then like he sues the hotel for entrapment.
no, it's one of those secret things where they're like, look, this is we can't say it out loud, but it is one of those we are about to hunt the most dangerous prey of all situation.
You know, sir, that you did get the all-inclusive deluxe package.
Yeah, wink,
means-
wink, nod, nod.
Deluxe package.
This isn't even the craziest thing. I mean, this is like small pickings for like Caribbean islands. This is literally where like probably less than 500 miles away from Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Yeah.
like as far as like overall things go, paltry murder. That's child's play compared to what's actually
No pun
happening.
intended.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a really funny quote from the complaint that Mr. Mr. Hapgood put out. According to its marketing, the Auberge way in hospitality means unforgettable experiences in storied destinations. But to plaintiff Scott Hapgood, the Auberge way means something different.
I think he did have an unforgettable experience.
It is probably
What is this guy doing? Is he going to a sandals resort with just an AK? Just blah, 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 blah. He's coming with an AR-15, just like,
What? What? I paid for the deluxe package.
So you would be unforgettable, but I was on a lot of bath salts, so I kind of forgot the whole thing.
I was on some experimental drugs that don't even exist in the United States yet.
Unless you have millions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, Connecticut. Something. Just watch out from dudes from Connecticut because they're the most likely bridge and tunnelers coming in here. Fucking.
This is the reason why I don't like bridge and tunnel people. They're murderers.
Yeah. Dude, you have too much space around you in fucking Hartford, Steph. You're like, of course you're just gonna murk somebody, you know.
Alleged manslaughterers.
What's next on the docket?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna talk about something else, guys. It's kind of like, look, we all know, we've all heard of these things called the hedge funds, right? We know what these things are. We've all heard these things called private equity, right? I mean, like those things. But what the heck? What the frickin' heck is a private equity fund and a hedge fund?
I don't know.
It's like that's the thing that I wake up every morning and say to my cat, you know. And they're different from like your 401k. And like, what the heck are they? And the biggest difference, okay, is again like after the New Deal, okay, during the New Deal, the Securities and Exchange Commission and all the Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Mr. President, he created these laws to regulate investments for regular people, right?
Yes.
Normies, okay? So the normies have special rules for investments, and if you don't make a certain amount of money, you can only invest in normie funds. These are called registered funds. Okay, the fund's got to be registered by the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Yeah,
it has to have certain requirements for things that it is allowed to invest in and things that it is not allowed to invest in. There are limitations for even like certain percentages of other stuff. You can't have like a fund that is invested in another fund that is invested in another fund that is invested in another fund. It has to be like one step removed from an actual company or from an actual commodity or something. So you can't like have all these, you know, so there's that sort of stuff. And these are all these sorts of rules that apply only to normie funds, registered funds, your pensions, your 401ks, your bonds, that sort of stuff.
To
Bond
the little
funds.
fish. This is the overregulation of the guppies, but not the whales.
This is guppy regulation.
Yeah. So to even put it in more, you know, sort of a plain English analogy, it's just like, you know, Gabe, David, myself, we're all just out here, and you know, we can't invest in sort of these complicated hotel schemes where you do get to kill a man for pleasure because that's too complicated. We simply can only invest in hotels. All right, there are no adjectives or like supplementary verbs to describe our
commodities.
Yeah,
you know, like pork bellies.
Yeah.
Bullets.
Yeah, you can't invest in bullets where there are smiley faces individually written on them on the hollow tip part. You know,
lithium battery manufacturers.
Yeah. You got it.
But an important thing. This is like an important thing I feel like to keep in mind though is just. Actually, even just normie investors is still such a small percentage of the population. Like I read somewhere, oh god, I can't find it right now, but they're like 84% of all investments on the stock market are owned by like 10%, the top 10% of the population. So like even when we're talking about like quote unquote normie investments, this is still a narrow segment of the population. The overwhelming majority of people have no money in the stock market.
Oh, yeah. So it's...
Because most people are going out for payday lendings to go and buy jewel pods.
Yeah. Most of us are very busy learning how to overcome these restrictive and quite frankly punitive laws on vaping. Okay.
Most people, they don't have health insurance. Their primary care provider is a bottle of Robitussin.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to choom fat clouds, and I don't need Mr. Moneybanks getting in my goddamn way.
And Jewel Pod's Robitussin doesn't have a dime.
No.
In the penny stocks.
Yeah. So, but David is right. We're talking about very few people who. What's the number? It's like 5 million, right? $5 million bucks.
So, in order to be able to qualify to invest in a private fund, there's a couple different ways to do it, but there's two different definitions. You can either be an accredited investor, or you can be a qualified purchaser. Okay, these are two different things. An accredited investor is a little bit of a lower threshold, and a qualified purchaser is a little bit higher. But importantly, before we go there, a private fund includes hedge funds, venture capital, private equity, and anything like that. Other weird esoteric stuff. And these funds are not registered by the Securities and Exchange Commission. They are called unregistered private funds. So if you have heard of a venture capital firm...
Yes, I have.
They are... those sorts of people are like private equity. These sorts of folks have to have a certain minimum amount of actual net worth and net income in order to be able to invest in these sorts of things.
Just to simplify this a little bit more, would it be safe to say that these private situations are people with just a fuck ton of money? Because when you say venture capital, I immediately think of Silicon Valley, and I think of people who invested in making Uber a reality and making various tech companies a reality, and their whole thing is hey, we just got $74 million lying around, and every once in a while we'll put a little bit of it into this app, and then we get a stake of your company. But the thing that makes them unique is that they have $74 million lying around, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly. That's so you need to, in order to be an accredited investor, you need to have a net worth of more than $1 million.
Okay.
Okay, and I think that it can include assets as well, right? And you need to also make $200,000 a year in income for 2 years straight. So you have to meet these thresholds in order to have any sort of access to being a private equity investor. Okay. And the reason why they do it, the thinking is that if you have that much money, you can take on the risk of investing in private equity or venture capital or other sorts of private funds, because a private fund is not protected by a lot of securities rules. There are anti-fraud rules that they still have to obey, and a few things like that, advertising rules and stuff like that. But they don't really have to be as liquid. You guys know what liquidity is?
They don't have to pay you out right away.
They don't have to pay you outright. There's no guarantee that you're going to make money. If you're a venture capital firm and you're investing in Palantir or something that's going to eat babies' eyeballs out of your phone or something like that, there's no guarantee that they're going to make money. So the SEC traditionally has not wanted regular folks to be investing in private equity because there's no chance that they're going to actually make money. And so if you're a teacher, you should not be investing in private equity, the theory goes, because you can't afford it. Because because there's no chance that you're actually going to be making money out of it.
Right. It's it could be we hotels on the moon, baby.
Yeah, and there's cool.
I like this.
I'll put my retirement money on that. You know what I mean? No, you're not going to a teacher should not be putting the retire. It's like a more expensive blackjack table. It's you should not be at the more expensive blackjack table because you're going to lose your money a lot faster, and there's a lot bigger stakes. And it's not even like that though. It's like that, except for at the bigger blackjack table, there's not even a guarantee that anyone's going to make money, because you need to have a certain amount of money to take on that risk of lack of returns and no liquidity for 10, 15 years even. It's even if it does make a lot of money, a teacher or any of us can't afford to wait 10 years before they're going to see any returns at all. Mm-hmm. That sort of stuff you can't wait on. And then finally, the last one is the theory is, and this is what we're going to talk about, is that if you have that much money, it is implying that you are sophisticated enough to understand the risk.
Ooh, wearing a top hat. Ooh, all right.
Yeah. So this is making the false equivalency that wealth equals intelligence.
Precisely.
Yeah, it's like it's the reason. Yeah, go on.
But I watch Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah,
and that show's funny because they're dumb.
Because they're fucking losers that happen to be sitting on black gold.
Yeah, exactly. So like, actually, this is one thing that people have been talking about, is that the reason why we're talking about this is that according to Maxine Waters, who's the chair of the House Financial Services Committee, in 2000, private assets under management totaled less than $1 trillion.
Really? Mm-hmm. Now this is where I'm surprised. Even with that trillion.
That figure has since skyrocketed to over $5 trillion today.
5 trillion in 20 years? Mm-hmm. That is a big jump.
And recent research has indicated that private markets are growing at more than twice the rate of their public counterparts.
So it's kind of it's one of those things where it's the rich are getting richer, you know, and
right.
And also this sort of limitation that you've stated earlier, where it's like, look, we don't want you to be in this because you could lose everything. It's kind of turning more into a sort of pay to play situation where the only way that it's like, yeah, you could potentially lose all your money, but also the amount of people who are able to benefit from this are only the very rich.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, so like there's some like reasonable things that they're saying, like, okay, if you shouldn't have to, but like you shouldn't have to take on that risk if you can't do it. And it would be ridiculous for hedge fund managers to take advantage of teachers and just take their money and then not give them anything back for a decade. You want these restrictions to exist, but at the same time, it's creating this dynamic wherein the rich people are getting access to these lucrative investments and making a lot of money.
They're fucking killing.
So this is the policy issue.
It makes me think about the porn industry.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
You'll have a state where they say you have to wear condoms.
Yeah.
And then they have a state where they say
anything goes.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wants to watch the condom porns.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't make any money there, even though they're protecting the actors and the performers.
Totally.
So they all have to, if you want to make money, you got to move to this like Wild West.
To this raw dog state.
A raw dog state, yeah.
Yeah. Like imagine if that were true, but instead of different states, it was like the government will only allow you to not wear a condom if you have a big dick.
How about that?
That's the equivalent, basically.
And there's a measuring contest.
There's literally, you have to have $200,000 in annual income for 2 years total, and you have to have a dick of at least 8 inches.
And then you can
minimum.
And then,
hard.
And then you don't have to wear a condom.
And then you're allowed to not wear a condom.
But yes,
Yeah.
all sorts of reckless and terrible things can happen.
Yeah, and all sorts of exactly.
So, everybody's swinging their big hog around, just knocking people's eyes out.
So so there's this rule. so people are trying.
The raw dog state is Texas's name. That is their motto. Yeah.
I know. What type of a Democrat are you? You a blue dog? Raw dog.
Raw dog. I'm a raw dog Democrat. I'm a raw dog Democrat. All right.
I think that just means you're a socialist, baby.
Me and Jane, we are going at it.
So this is the thing. This is where it gets weird, right? Because there's a lot of different people who are noticing this, and a lot of people want to do something about it to make it more accessible for private people to get in on these sweet deals.
Public people to get on the private deals.
What did I say?
Private people to get on these sweet deals.
Registered people,
yeah.
regular people to get in on some sweet deals. So there's like this one guy, there's a couple people who are like trying to start funds to like skirt around some rules to like let them what's called co-invest.
Yeah.
So like they're not like directly investing, but they're like kind of like a little bit like leeching on.
Joe and Ethel Main Street want a piece of the pie.
Yeah, they're like letting them have some of that. And
can we sublet into your investments?
Yeah.
Kinda, yeah, something like that. It's weird. There's like a lot of like rules that they're like walking through and walking around, but that's like the gist of it. And they're trying to skirt around some rules to allow that to happen, and they're creating these like innovative financial products in order to do that. And so that's like a private market solution that some people are trying to do. But a weird one is the SEC has proposed to create a rule that would expand the definition of accredited investor.
Ooh.
Okay, so it would allow for you to qualify as an accredited investor if you
own a gun.
If you have a even if you don't meet the income or wealth thresholds, you are allowed to still be an accredited investor if you have a specific expertise in licensure to do that. So if you have like what's called a Series 7 or Series 65 or Series 92 license, these are like licenses that allow you to be a broker dealer or allow you to be certain like have certain financial expertise in certain ways. I don't know what the specific numbers mean, but if you're allowed to have these, if you have these licenses, that is what they are saying is proof that you have the necessary expertise to take on the risk to be an accredited investor.
Yeah. Isn't this sort of like highlighting a bigger problem, though, which is these things are bad, and even though they're cutting people out, maybe there shouldn't be like they shouldn't exist in the way we shouldn't even be incentivized to participate in them. Like,
I mean, that's I think that's a reasonable point. I mean, it's like, but anyways, to continue on, I want to get back to that.
Shit, yeah, please,
okay? Because
yes.
I think that's I want to get there.
Yeah.
So what it would do, okay, so how this is a quote, okay, from this Commissioner Elad Roisman, who I've seen him speak and is maybe one of the least charismatic speakers I've ever seen in my entire life. Anyways,
we're going to talk about money today. Make sure you have
So it's Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
He's an SEC commissioner, and he just is a little bit mousier of a voice, and he just seems like really like he's like breathing through sweat whenever he speaks publicly. Yeah, exactly. And just like little, I feel I don't want to disparage this individual because I'm sure he's a very nice young fellow. He's like in his early 40s, and anyway. So
no.
So he
he's young. He's young and gross already.
Yeah. So he's a Republican. Okay,
okay.
So the SEC has a rule. This is from the Securities and Exchange Act that you can have no more than 3 people out of 5 of the same political party serving as commissioners of the SEC.
Yeah.
So you have to have at least 2 commissioners who are of a minority party.
It has to be a team of rivals.
Yeah, we learned about the team of rivals in a previous episode. Yes.
So they require a team of rivals. So Elad Roisman is in the majority, and then there's 2 other Republicans. Okay, for all intents and purposes, they're Republican. And Elad Roisman says this regarding opening up the accredited investor definition. He says, did any prior commission dispositively ascertain that an individual who made $200,000 in income for 2 years or had a net worth of more than $1 million was a savvy enough investor to recognize a good investment from a bad one? Did anyone consider the outcome that only the wealthiest Americans would have access to investments that would have the most upside for growth over time? Surely it is only sensible that someone entrusted to manage other people's investments in the private markets should be considered financially sophisticated enough to invest his or her own money in the same types of offerings. Pretty intense.
This guy, it's like he's speaking. It sounds like he's speaking with a bit of conviction about this, but like, again, I really cannot get over the fact that he is talking about that. It's like he's talking about like, you should, instead of being like this, we are the most rich country in the history of the world, that everybody should have health care. But instead of that, he's being like, you should be able to invest in these very specific offerings in the financial world.
And we can talk about actually whether private equity is like a social good in the world. And I think that there's a lot of candidates for president, or 2, I guess. But especially Elizabeth Warren's plan is like really, she views it as a lecherous endeavor.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like reasonable. But he's saying like, we should let retail people invest in vampire funds, you know?
Yeah. Let them all get a taste.
Yeah.
Lecherous.
Yeah.
So these, the ultimate goal of these investment companies, not companies, but these sort of funds, is it to bring more good into, and good is a loaded term, but sort of something constructive or productive into the world? Or are they...
Well,
are these like corporate raiders? Are these things that are is it a bust out?
I mean, look, a private fund can do anything.
Yes.
Okay, a private fund can Like you can have it invest in public funds. You can have it invest in a private company. You can have it be like venture capital. I think you can argue that venture capital serves a reasonably good purpose under capitalism because they give people money to start businesses and they give you startup money. That's like how Silicon Valley runs is VC money. Okay, so like under capitalism, VC you can make an argument that venture capital is a good thing. Private equity,
WeWork, Spotify.
Yeah.
Seamless.
These, I
presumably
mean,
drone, private citizen drone attacks coming soon.
But I think the thing that is being highlighted more and more as the 21st century continues is that why did I? Yeah, but I think you can make an argument, especially since like 2010, like in the last decade, that like the idea that like, yeah, we're just giving away money to people and we get a little bit off the top with their investment and it's great. We're making innovation. And then as we go on, we do encounter what like kind of like what Gabe just said, specifically like an Adam Newman situation with WeWork, where it's like, I need all this money so I can make what is essentially a workspace cooperative that serves kombucha on tap. But
it makes no money.
That makes no money.
So like this sort of stuff is like, okay, whether it's a social good or not is like, okay, it depends on what the company is. Like I, for example, really like Revel, which is like a Vespa bike share program that is in Brooklyn and Queens. And I apologize for just doing an advertisement for a tech company.
Have you heard about this new thing?
Yeah,
the Revel.
The Revel. Anyways, we'll be reaching out to them for advertisements soon. We'll try and get back funds.
Do you think you can drive a moped in Brooklyn and Queens and not get run over? Revel.
You don't even need to take a test or anything. You can just get on a Revel.
But presumably they could have gotten their money from VC, right?
Yeah, presumably. In fact, they very likely did.
Yeah, exactly. Because you gotta get the startup capital to do that sort of stuff. But then also, so like VC is complicated, but private equity. I think we should talk about another thing, but it is a very different business model. Yeah. And I think that is something that we can talk about in a different episode. But needless to say, they want the commissioners, the 3 Republican commissioners, voted to allow people with specialized licenses to become accredited investors.
They threw out little sheriff stars. And they were like, "Put this pin on."
Now you're the sheriff of this town.
Now you can invest.
Yeah, so if you have a Series 7, then that's the proposed rule. It hasn't passed yet, but according to the proposed rule, you can invest in an accredited investment if you are a registered broker dealer, if you have a Series 7 license. According to Hester Peirce, she's a great name, by the way.
I was like, you said,
she sounds like a street name in the Lower East Side.
Hester Peirce. Yeah, she's a drug, actually. She's crocodile. But so she has a pretty good quote, which says, "Our current definition includes investors that spend their days cruising around in a Ferrari that daddy bought them, yet excludes investors whose weeks are spent earning money and weekends are spent figuring out how best to invest it." Stating something like, basically she's saying like, I saw this one thing where like Lord Roisman says he does not qualify to be an accredited investor, and he's the commissioner of the SEC, or he is a commissioner of the SEC, he cannot invest in private equity. So it's like this man is probably the most sophisticated securities regulator right now, or one of the 5 most powerful securities regulators in the world, and he cannot invest in private equity because he doesn't qualify. So it's like that is like their idea, and both Democrats voted against it.
Interesting.
Dude, I think it's a fucking, I mean, look, I don't think this is any it's not hidden within the whole structure of this podcast that like we're kind of directly against the idea of the capitalist takes on the financial world. And I think the Democrats in this case accidentally stumbled into the right answer, but it is one of those things where it just seems almost like a pyramid scheme to siphon up working people's money, where it's like it's not enough for you to like fucking steal Adam Newman's money or like well, the opposite of Kendall Jenner because she made a lot of money, but like it's not enough to just like get the super rich's money and take it out of them, but you have to like vacuum it up and be like, no, we should be able to steal from poor people too. This is because I am too sick of trying to go to all these fucking Connecticut golf courses to talk to the great grandson of an oil mogul.
Yeah,
to get him to give me $1 billion. You know,
that's right. And it's also an interesting thing about it is that I've spoken with some people about like trying to start up a fund that allows for retail investors to invest in private equity with these like innovative private market solutions. And one of the things we talk about is like what incentive, even if you allow it, even if like you skirt around the rules and the SEC allows retail people to invest in private equity or private funds, what incentive does the hedge fund or private fund manager have to even allow retail people to invest? Because they have to, all of a sudden, they're getting so much less money. You know what I mean? Because you're just a regular schmo. You're just like an orthodontist in Phoenix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they're not even like getting a whole lot of money, and they still have to abide by all these rules.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, so
it's a bellyache, is what it is.
Yeah, there's just like doesn't really seem to be that much incentive for a private fund manager to
like,
even allow for a registered investor to invest in these sorts of funds, even if the SEC allows it. There's no financial incentive.
Yeah, I mean, just think about a world where like to these people, $1 million is pocket change, essentially.
That's right.
Like it's normal. So imagine their like their facial expression when you're just like, all right, I've saved up a lot of money and I would now like to invest my $20,000.
Yeah, and they're like, and on top of the $20,000, you also have to abide by like a fiduciary responsibility, and you have to abide by like all these specific rules because I am a retail investor.
Yeah,
and like they're like, go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? But like the one thing that they might do is they might like allow for like a pension fund or a 401k, which has a big pot,
a big pool,
a big pool of retail investors. Allow them to invest in private stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Allow that fund to invest in a private fund. And
so what would you call that? You if you were going to pitch that to people, you'd say, all right, this is your stable fund, and this is the reckless fund.
So there's an informal rule at the SEC right now that only allows retail investment funds to invest up to 15%. And this is an unwritten rule. It's like off the books, but people talk about it all the time. That if you have a mutual fund and you want to use that mutual fund to invest in private funds, you can only invest up to 15% of your mutual fund in this private fund because there's liquidity issues and there's issues with risk and all that sort of stuff. So they can do it, but they have to abide by that 15% rule. And then there's still other issues that the private fund has to deal with on the other side. They have all these obligations to the retail fund as a result. So the whole thing isn't even that good of an incentive for these billionaires, to do it. So it's like, why are we allowing it to happen? Like in theory, what's strange to me is that this Republican Hester Peirce is kind of making like an interesting populist argument that's like, just because you drive around in a Ferrari doesn't make you smart.
Yeah, you should be able to set yourself on fire. God damn it!
But that's a great comparison because it's like that is like the kind of like libertarian. I don't want the government telling me what I can do with my microwave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I need to be able to self-emulate. All right.
There is a little bit of that sort of like logic in there.
I'm listening right now to this podcast called The Dream, and in it they talk about the supplement industry. And so, like, if you go to a doctor and you get real drugs, prescription drugs, they've all gone through FDA approval, and regardless of how, that system is fraught with corruption as well, the supplements and things that are marketed as vitamins have no regulation at all. So you don't know what type of poison you're putting in your body. And all of these things are being sourced from all over the world.
Jesus.
So when you don't even know, like, there's no lab that's testing things out to see if you're really getting ginseng or if you're getting ashwagandha.
Yeah.
You're just putting garbage in your body the whole time. But the way that they got around that or made it a populist case was at all these health food stores and stuff, the companies that were selling these products would just have people sign petitions there and be like, "You want the government interfering with your health and wellness?
Do you want the
You want
fucking
them
government
yeah.
not allowing you to eat an alligator's snout for fertility? Are you insane?
Yeah. Meanwhile, all these millionaires and billionaires are eating alligator snouts. They're getting more and more virile every day.
They cut all the rhino horn off.
Yeah.
You should be able to snort rhino horn so you have a strong first son.
I mean, so that is kind of the thinking behind it. But I think that, Danny, I want to go back to the point that we just pinned that you just said, which is like, in my opinion, the underlying problem is that there is too much money in the private fund industry.
Yeah.
Not that, like, how can we make it so people have more access to private fund industry, but like, how can we even out the systems, like larger systemic issues that make it so private funds make so much more money?
Yeah, like we're like, best case scenario here is that you have like a teachers union in fucking Nebraska or Connecticut or something like that, and it's just like, yeah, you know, they made a modest 3% return, and they also helped fund the feature on Tinder that lets you automatically send a picture of your penis to somebody that you met 5 seconds ago on the internet, you know?
Yeah. Or like even crazier is like you have like a teacher's retirement fund that is investing in a product that's going to like further automate teaching jobs. You know,
or like have like somebody who is like worked in like the park services for years upon years, making like an herbicide. It's just like funding your own doom in a weird. I mean, these are all hypotheticals that I'm making up, but they're not crazy to think about, especially when like weapons industries are things that like fucking investors and like I'm sure private funds are like, yeah, we want to invest in weapons.
KKR is a great example, and that's where David Petraeus works. You know, that's we talked about that in the last episode.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it is ultimately like I think that we need to be thinking about like what is the root cause of income inequality. And what is like giving these incentives where the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, not like how to work within the system to make it so that like poor people have are investing in like less risk, like even are investing in like riskier investments where they could lose more money and then ultimately end up like hurting their own class interest by investing in like a company that's going to automate or kill them or something like that. Like, instead of doing that, we should be thinking about like, okay, well, why is private equity making so much money off of hurting working people and not like, well, it should be like disincentivizing the private industry, not further incentivizing it. Yeah. It should be shrinking that, not expanding it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking about too, with like this almost a comparison between these regulated funds that are, I'd see them almost as like FDA approved drugs. And then the unregulated market is the supplement market. And it's like, well, like it should all be regulated. Or moving further into a fuller regulation if possible.
Yeah, or like disincentivize it and like, you know, like you have like the transaction tax, or you just like make it illegal for like private equity firms to like do certain practices. Or like there's one thing that I read about Warren's proposal on private equity. She does have the most thorough one. I mean, like this is not like endorsing any particular candidate, but she does have the most thorough private equity plan, and one of it would be to like require the private equity firms have like an actual incentive and responsibility to the workers when they buy a firm, because oftentimes what they'll do is they won't do that sort of stuff. So like cracking down on specific practices of the private fund industry that just allow them to be so lecherous and make so much more money is like a better thing to do than doing and then like expanding the current system to make it even more crazy. Because then if you do actually open up private funds to registered people in a real way, that's just going to make all of us more risky. And we're just not going to get liquidity for 10, 15 years because all of us are invested in like some hedge fund that, you know, probably, you know.
Like Theranos 2.0.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, where'd you lose all your money? And it was like, oh, and this blood test kit that's never going to work.
Like this is the securities laws exist for a reason, which is to prevent like like millions of people losing money in like a crazy, stupid, unregulated investment.
Augmented sunglasses for my dog.
Yeah. No, it's like that's like the big thing. There are two things. One, it's like that's where all the crazy stories come from that people have heard about in recent like the last year or the last 2 years, is these situations where these wildly speculative companies or what have you have actually had to explain themselves. Every time that happens, like WeWork or in this case Theranos, they were just every time they're like, yeah, we're gonna go public or we have to do a filing in some way to explain ourselves. They write that out, and then people are like, oh no, this is bat shit. This doesn't work. And then
because like fraud it's like she, well, I don't remember Elizabeth something
Holmes
was like, I mean, she was just like writing on this whole fraud, and there was like, she was probably writing on this thing of like, yes, I'm going to say it's true until it becomes true, but then eventually it just wasn't true. It was just never going to happen.
It was just not physical. Yeah, it's like, and then the advantage for it's like,
I'm really excited that the only people that got really screwed over at the Fire Festival were the influencers.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
And so from like a systemic risk perspective, this is also, I think, pretty reckless to allow.
It would just turn our entire country's investing population into Firefest.
Like that's funny because those people, those fucking loser influencers, they were the only ones who were like, yeah, I have the next 3 days off and I have, thousands of dollars. I mean, like, so I'm going to invest in this. And lo and behold, you just ended up screwing up a fucking Bermudan class worker who lives in a very precarious state of existence at all times, and then luckily does have a very generous GoFundMe give her $50,000 in her lost expenses.
Absolutely,
which was very. Man, that was a whole trip when that happened too. Like, everybody watched the Fire Festival documentary, and they were like, damn, these fucking rich fuckos really from New Hampshire really screwed up this lady's life. Who all she wanted to do was make 1 million sandwiches, and she couldn't even do that, because they were like not wasps, literally wasps. But locusts. They just came in and just ruined everything.
Ooh, locusts! I like that. Yeah,
I just think about for the public.
Very how Jewish.
I know. Yeah. for common people, it feels like the benefit is so weird and minimal. Where it's like what I was saying. It's like if you had like a spinner essentially, and it had 8 sections on it, and it's like, okay, 6 of these sections are you getting horribly gored by a rhino. Okay, one of these is you get to shoot the rhino with a gun, and then one of them is you get to shoot the rhino with a grenade launcher. And that's what we, the very rich, love to do, by the way. And it's just like, wait a minute, we're still either getting killed or just obliterating an animal. Like, why are we even doing this in the first place?
I think that's a good point of like bringing up like, what is the purpose of investing in capital markets?
Like I don't like this game.
Yeah, it's like if we should be investing, and this is something that I think that we will touch upon next week, which is like investing in something that is good and socially productive, and that's like what people want, is to like think that their investments are going to a good place, not going to like a rhino killing app that automates your job.
And very few investments are going to the cure for cancer.
Yeah. I mean, I think without getting too much into the election, I think that's why there is such amazing mobilization behind Bernie Sanders' campaign. I mean, it's like by all standards and practices, people would be like, why do you guys like this old Jewish man who mostly yells at you, or that is the appearance? And it's just like, nah, man, that's not it at all. It's literally that this person is actually speaking to my material needs. So it's just like, the fact that people like that and people like him are getting money is like, yeah, people want to invest in something,
Yep. Want to invest in good.
They want to invest in this. I want him to be president purely so I can see the Secret Service go into a CVS so they can return a banana. All right. I want this.
He'd also like some cough drops while we're in here.
Yeah. Just hold on a sec. He keeps getting spotted in Vermont, even though Bernie Sanders is like a fucking viable presidential campaign and seems to be touring relentlessly. Every once in a while, I'll see a comic who's like, yeah, I'm from Vermont, and I saw Bernie Sanders. How do you keep making your way back to Vermont? Yeah.
Love it. All right. Well, that's all I have to say about this. Do you guys have any last things on this weird little subject matter?
Don't kill the rhino. It's not a fun game. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a fun game.
All right. Well, this is Ponzi Scream.
Yeah.
Yo soy David Bradley Isenberg.
Oh my, that's the most, just the whitest. What are you,
Yo
Michael,
soy?
What a Michael Bloomberg over here? Like, yeah. Me, I'm next. Yo soy Danny Feltz. You can follow me at DANNYFELTS.
Yo, it's your T.O., Gabe Pacheco. You can find me at GabePacheco.com.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Much love,
everybody.
everybody.
We love you.
Bye-bye.
Get out.